couple of days, but I'll wait till we're actually doing the show for the most part.
Well, you don't have to completely hold back. You can excite me. Dude, what I wanted to say though the other day when we yesterday when we talked about, was it yesterday or the day before?
It was the day before
Um,
yesterday.
this kind of thing, what you're doing is exactly what I have always dreamt of doing. The whole animatronics and creating your own creatures and everything is exactly what I love, man. So I just think that it's awesome that you're doing it.
Oh, thank you. Well, especially when you come over, I'll show you how I managed to create some of this stuff on such a low budget, and chances are you'll leave going, I could do some of that. Uh, I think that's probably what you're going to end up doing, because a lot of this is, I mean, we don't have the money to do sculpts and life casts and run molds and that sort of thing.
Right.
So we've been really kind of doing the MacGyver version of a lot of this stuff. Our only real animatronics are the ones that Studio 80i sent us,
Huh.
which I forgot to ask you. You familiar with their work?
Not fully. I mean, I've had so many people tell me, I don't know if they're with indie films or if they're completely by himself out in the corner, but who are they? Well, first, before we get into the super details, we just went live and we're broadcasting right now. So tell me who you are, how you got into the industry, and why you're doing something as awesome as Quantum Terror.
Okay, well, I am Christopher Moonlite, and currently in Kyle, Texas, where I'm watching lightning flash outside my window. So it's kind of
Nice.
apropos for the mood.
Yeah.
And yeah, I actually started out as an aspiring comic book artist, and I just kind of found myself falling into these different jobs and professions. And I did gallery artwork, I did independent comics. Then one day I lived close to Hollywood, so I'd find myself doing a job for, like a movie like Independence Day, or a TV
Right.
show like Nowhere Man. And I got to work on a movie.
Wait, so you worked with Independence Day. Rewind just a second.
Okay, so Independence Day, this was when I was like 19 years old, and it was I started working with a friend of mine whose parents owned a insert graphic company, an editing company in Burbank, and he just said, "Oh, okay, we graduated high school. You're an artist. You want to come do some of this movie industry stuff that my parents do?" And I said, "Sure." Right. It didn't end up being a full-time job at the time. I was kind of hoping it would be, but I just showed up and started messing around with some Photoshop and a program called Director, which is kind of an old school version of After Effects, I guess is the best way to put it.
Right.
But they had me create these insert graphics for these television shows. One was a show called Nowhere Man, and I ended up doing a stock market graphic for a Patrick Stewart movie called Safe House.
Wow.
And but one of the things that was really cool was, my friend said, "Hey, we got to go shoot this insert graphic in this airplane hangar, this movie called Independence Day. Why don't you come along and help? It's cool. They got a UFO in there." So I was like, okay, cool. So, I went down to this hangar, and the UFO actually at that point had been taken down. But I'll never forget it. There was this giant green screen, and there are these guys there, and they're stuffing these air cannons, these giant air cannons with toy cars, and they're shooting them in front of this green screen. And it ended up being what was all the cars flying through the air when the UFOs are blasting the cities.
Oh, wow.
And it was just kind of a cool experience. The guys were really chill. My friend ended up not needing my help, so I was just hanging out, watching him do his job with an insert graphic. And we're all kind of running around, having fun, laughing, trying to catch these, landing on the concrete ground and smashing. They didn't want them to smash, so like everyone's trying to catch them. And there was even a $5 prize for whoever caught the motorcycle.
Right on.
So it's just, growing up around Hollywood, I just kind of kept finding myself in those situations. And I didn't really have a direction. It just someone would show up, and I'd be doing like an art show at a wine bar, and somebody would walk up and say, "Hey, I've got a TV show. Can you do animation stuff?" I'm like, yeah, sure I can. I didn't know if I could or not, but they had a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
paycheck, so
You
uh,
take the chance.
exactly. But I kept falling into some really cool stuff. I mean, that's kind of been my career, is just I blunder into the best stuff. I've had that luck. I am an avid fan of Ray Bradbury, and I got approached by somebody who just was drinking at the same bar as my dad was drinking at. Said, "Oh,
Oh.
I'm working with Ray Bradbury on a documentary about his life, and we want all these special effects. Can you do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can do it."
With
I'd
my
see,
hands tied.
yeah, well, I've always loved movies and special effects, even before there were special features on DVDs. If there was, like a show about special effects would
Right.
be on television, whether it be something on MTV or HBO, a making of. Like there was a making of Alien 3 that came out, half-hour special on HBO, and I VHS recorded that and just watched the hell out of it. Them using the puppets and the animatronics, and I just kind of would go into my garage, and go, okay, I need to figure out how this works. I had no idea, there wasn't Stan Winston School of Character Arts yet,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
any tutorials online. I wasn't even on the internet. And, I'd go in my garage and say, these guys are building this stuff out of whatever they must be. I don't know what they're building it out of. So I would just pull all this stuff out of the garage, paper mache, Halloween toys, and I would just mishmash it together, and I'd be creating alien heads and puppets and that sort of
Oh, that's
thing.
awesome.
So I didn't know a thing about, like I said, running molds or sculpting or anything like that. I just figured these guys were throwing this stuff together out of whatever. I didn't know. Uh, so when I got approached for the Ray Bradbury documentary, which unfortunately never came to fruition, but I was like, well, I can make puppets, and there's a little trick where you take these little miniature puppets and you put them in a water tank so they're buoyant and they float. If you have a green screen
Right.
behind it, you can key that out, and suddenly they don't look like they're underwater. They just look like they've got a life of their own. And you can turn them upside down in post or reverse the footage, and just all this
Wow.
crazy neat stuff that I've had a good time with. And so people would come up to me and say, for example, the Ray Bradbury documentary, "Hey, I need this
Right.
many-armed monster at the top of the staircase that Ray Bradbury used to imagine he saw when he was a little boy. Can you create that for me?" And I go, "Sure." And they go shoot the footage, and it'd be all wrong. And I'd look at it and go, "Oh, that's all wrong." And but I'd like add grunge to the film, and I'd make a puppet, and we'd shoot it in front of a green screen and superimpose it over itself, so it had these weird kind of trippy trails. And
Right. Right.
and it was fun. They brought in Malcolm McDowell, shot him in front of a green screen, waving around a sword like he was in a carnival, and I had electric arcs coming out of the sword, and doing these lens flares and creating these miniatures. And I bring my friends in on it too, because I had these awesome friends that I grew up with. Be like, "Hey, come on, build this stop motion Ferris wheel. I'll bring you in on the job, and Ray Bradbury's involved." And they're like, "Ray Bradbury, cool. We'll be involved in that." So it's like playtime. It was, a good time. And,
Yeah.
but the problem that I was having with it was that I was helping a lot of people on these really low budget productions, and they were great productions, but they would either never come to fruition, or I wouldn't quite be satisfied with the direction that they would
Right.
go in,
Right.
or they wouldn't use my work or whatever. So, I was living out in Hollywood. It's very expensive there. And my wife and I were raising two kids, and, we decided, well, let's go someplace where we can live more affordably and have a little more creative control. I'm not having to deal with, "Oh, you're working on a movie. Well, you got to get the union involved, and then you got to have this much money for the union, and blah, blah."
Right.
No,
Right.
no, I don't, I just want to create. So we came out to Austin because all of my research said, Austin is the place to be if you're an independent filmmaker. I mean, there are a few other places, but I saw the Austin
Right.
Film Meet. They had a website up. It was like the first thing I saw, and that looked really cool. And of of course, Robert Rodriguez would come to Comic-Con, and I'd be at Comic-Con, and I'd hear him talk about how great it is making films in Austin.
Sure.
And, so, I know that not everybody in Austin likes to hear about someone from California coming to Austin, flooding the city.
I'm new too, man. I have no qualms, dude. I love.
Okay, great. Well, I was going to say, if it makes anybody feel better, I was originally born in England, so there's
Oh, there you go.
there's that. It's just been kind of a crazy, awesome life. I mean,
Yeah.
before I came out here, I was making an all green screen film, which I'm still working on because all green screen films require a hell of a lot of post production, especially when you're doing sci-fi. But I was actually working as a composite artist for the catalog department of a company called Lamps Plus.
Okay.
So I was doing a lot of compositing work and getting really good at it. We would take, lamps and furniture, they'd shoot that separate, and then they'd shoot their sets separate, and they'd have us composite it all together and make it look real. But what I didn't realize was 2 doors down was a company called Studio ADI, which was founded by 2 practical effects artists, Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff Jr. They are, what would you call it, proteges of Stan Winston, who is created the effects for Aliens and Terminator 2, Jurassic Park. Well, they worked with him on Aliens, and I believe Tom Woodruff worked on the original Terminator as well. Anyway, they had their companies.
At this point, are you starting to realize, okay, I was put on this planet to do this. I've got all these things like gravitating towards me. At what point are you starting to put it all together that this is your destiny?
It was such a kind of rocky road for a while. I didn't know what my path was. There's so many things I love to do. What I finally realized that I love to do is tell stories, but I wanted to tell fantastical stories, and I wanted to tell them in an artistic way, not just, ultra realism or whatever. But I'm a big believer in synchronicity. And the funny thing about Studio ADI, remember how I told you that I was in love with this 1.5 hour special I VHS about the making of Alien 3?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that was Studio ADI. So one day I'm on a walk, because I go on walks every single day, and I'd walk around the buildings just to kind of, work my legs out. I'm sitting down all day. Sure. And I look, and there's this guy working on this giant female head in front of this building. I think he's painting it to get the light right outdoors. It turned out to be this giant rod puppet for this phone company. They were doing this kind of touring advertisement, this giant kind of anime looking girl dialing a phone. But I saw it and I was like, that is really cool. So I ran back to my work and I got my friends, because they're into that stuff too. And we all walked over and we're kind of gawking from afar. And my friend Tim's like, oh, let's just go over there. So he starts walking over there, and the guys see us, and one of the guys starts beckoning, like, come on over, guys, like, don't be shy, So we all walk over and we're checking this thing out. And I'm looking at the guy going, that guy looks damn familiar. And he's like, hey, you want to see inside the shop? We're working on the Thing prequel at the moment. You want to see some of the stuff we got going on? No way.
Awesome.
We're like, oh yeah, okay, So we walk inside, and he takes us into the showroom, and the showroom is just Aliens, Predator. There's a life cast of Sigourney Weaver from Alien Resurrection. There's Scooby-Doo. There's Graboids from Tremors. There's
oh my gosh.
There's the Bugs from Starship Troopers. Just looking around, and I'm like, I've seen this showroom before, and I realized this is the showroom that I'm always seeing in all these behind-the-scenes videos that I love so much. And I look at the guy, and I'm like, you're Alec Gillis. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, and at that point it's like, okay, be cool.
Yeah.
You can do
Try
this.
not to faint and crap myself right now.
Yeah. And I'm just looking around, and he's like, hey, you want to see the maquettes for the Thing? We just got done working on that. And we're like, yeah. So he's showing us all these maquettes. And we're like, this is beautiful stuff. And there's these little silver beads kind of
Right.
embedded in them. And we're like, is that for scanning, for motion tracking? It's like, yeah, it's like, we don't really know if they're going to go, CGI or if they're going to use what we did.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I hope they use what you did. It's like, I don't mind CGI, and neither does Alec Gillis, actually. But, we like practical effects. It's an art form, and we want to see it used in the right place.
Yeah. And
Anyway.
he's coming from things like Aliens, like you said,
Oh, yeah, this guy's
Jumanji,
Jumanji. Yeah, they did Jumanji. They created the
Pumpkinhead, Predator.
Pumpkinhead. Yeah, Tom Woodruff was in the Pumpkinhead suit. He was also Gillman in Monster Squad, and he was the alien in Alien 3. So when you see
Wow.
Sigourney Weaver, being confronted by the alien, and it's like inches from her face, snarling, and she thinks it's gonna snap its jaws at her.
Right.
That's Tom Woodruff in there.
Now, is he working with you guys on Quantum Terror?
Okay, so I'll kind of bring you up to speed and how they kind of became involved with the Quantum Terror, because they decided, because CGI is taking over so much of the industry, they decided, like, we're going to do our own movie. So Alec Gillis created Harbinger Down, and he did a Kickstarter for it. And I, at that point, having been introduced to him through, that chance encounter, I said, hey, you're doing a Kickstarter. I don't have any money to donate, but I'm pretty good with social media. You want me to help you blast this out here? Maybe I can contact some press for you. I know some good press. And he's like, yeah, sure, we could use all the help we could get. So I got him in touch with some press, got him some interviews, really blasted it out. I contacted all these other special effects people, like really kind of just shamelessly, like, this movie's going to be awesome. This is like the big push. I don't care if people think I'm a nerd or a dork or whatever. I think this movie's a great idea. Let's do it. Well, I kind of ended up being one of the people that, like, took the lead in just picking up that saber and leading a charge.
There you go.
And so the movie, it got made. It had Lance Henriksen in it. It's available on video on demand at the moment, and you can also get it at Best Buy and Walmart. But anyway, I was inspired to make the Quantum Terror because Alex said something that really resonated with me. He said, because people were coming out going like, oh, this movie looks like a ripoff of The Thing. And he's like, well, I worked on The Thing prequel and everyone was dissatisfied that all our stuff got replaced by CGI. And I kind of do want to make a Thing movie. He said, when they made The Walking Dead, they didn't go, oh, it's a ripoff of Night of the Living Dead. No, that's a zombie genre. Or when someone makes a vampire movie, they don't go, oh, it's a ripoff of Dracula. There's plenty of vampire movies. So he's like, so why can't there be a tentacle horror subgenre? Kind of fits in with John Carpenter's The Thing and the Lovecraftian stuff into the Mouth of Madness that John Carpenter did. And,
oh, I love that.
Yeah, and and so I was like, I said to Alec, I was like, hey, Alec, I want to make a tentacle movie too. Would you think I was kind of aping your vibe he's like, no, go ahead, make a tentacle movie, like, absolutely. So I started planning it, and I didn't have much. I had my garage and I had my house. So I took all these foam sheets and put them up in my garage and painted them to look like concrete. So they look like concrete tunnels. And I started making these tentacles out of, household materials like bubble wrap and latex and all this stuff. Because I'd seen him doing that too. He rolls up bubble wrap and paints it, and it looks like this beautiful, like, mutant tentacles. And
really, that's how tentacles are made?
Not all tentacles. I mean, sometimes they sculpt them, but Harbinger Down was kind of the Roger Corman version of, because they didn't have a lot of money either. It was the budget was under $1 million. But, I would see them do all this cool stuff. Like, they'd roll up a tentacle out of bubble wrap and put latex on it and paint it, and they'd put magnets inside of it. So they lay the magnet across a table, and then they put another magnet underneath it. So they just move the magnet and the tentacle would move.
Right.
And they had animatronic tentacles as well. And at one point, I was raising my money through Indiegogo, which is still open. But I was, kind of confident. I got an investor. There was another investor interested that fell through. not his fault, but it's just the industry happens. But at
Sure.
one point I was
Yeah.
pricing everything, and I wrote to Alec and I said, "Hey, Alec, like, how much would you charge me to rent a couple of animatronic tentacles?" And he's like, "You know what?" He's like, I, "This is not something I do for people, but you helped us so much with Harbinger Down for free.
See, I'm
You
telling
never asked
you,
for money." He said,
meant to be.
we will bring in, we will, as long as you pay for shipping and insurance and that sort of thing, we will let you borrow for a certain amount of time these animatronic tentacles.
Wow.
And he was, I don't even know if I should be saying that in a public forum or not. It's one of those things where,
And you just crap yourself. You're like,
oh, it was,
monster hero lets me use his equipment. How
yeah. I
awesome.
mean, and this guy, remember now, these guys, they won an Oscar for Death Becomes Her with Bruce Willis and Goldie Hawn and who was the other one? Anyway, that was a big movie. Her name will come to me. They were nominated for Alien 3. They were nominated for Starship Troopers. I mean, these guys are role models to me ever since I was like 16, 17 years old.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is too, I'm nearly 40. I mean, when these guys were creating these movies, they were like in their early to mid 20s. It's not even like they're that much older than me. It's just, I have been watching them and just following their example the best I could. And I really think, like I said, I don't think that they're definitely not going to do that for just anyone. I mean, they make money off of renting this stuff out. But it was a combination, I think, of how much I helped them, how much I went to town on Harbinger Down. And also, I was always sending them stuff. I was always doing stuff and asking them questions. And every time I asked them a question, I would follow up by sending them my progress and what I was asking about. So I also think that they saw that I wasn't a flake. I wasn't some just fanboy, like asking a bunch of stuff. Oh, tell me about this. Tell me about that. Wanting to hear stories.
Yeah.
I was going
it's all
and
about the
doing
follow
this
through.
stuff. Yeah, and I think that my understanding is that Dick Smith used to do that as well. Like, you could write to Dick Smith, and he had a correspondence thing that you could sign up for. But if you didn't send him photographs of what you were doing, he'd cut you off. Like, I'm not here to just tell you stories or answer questions and stuff. Like, if you're going to ask me about this stuff and I'm going to tell you these secrets, I want to see you work and do it. And they, Alec and Tom never took that attitude with me, but, I could sense that they weren't, these guys are busy guys. They're not going to spend their time with just anyone. So, but, it's been really wonderful. I have a question for them. I write them. Sometimes I don't hear back, and then, because I follow their progress on their Facebook and Instagram and website and that sort of thing, you hear news about movies they're working on. Like, oh, okay, they're just really busy.
Right.
But when they're back and I write them, they do get back to me and they're very nice. They give me information. But what I really love about it too is they don't just, give me long bits of information. They give me resources. And then I'm able to go and do my own research and do it my own way, which is really kind of cool because I'm very much, I'm a dive in head first kind of guy, and I just come up with these crazy ideas. And then I go, how am I going to make that out of, packing tape and bubble wrap?
Exactly. I wanted to mention for the people that are listening right now live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or wherever people are listening from, you are speaking directly from inside the world of making movies, and so I wanted to make sure that people understand all the legwork and all the footwork that you actually do. The dedication that it takes, what it sounds like, is just unbelievable. How much time do you think out of your life do you dedicate to something like this?
All of it.
All of it. Wow, that's a whole lot.
That's pretty much
how's
it.
How's your family deal with it? How do they feel about it?
Well,
you ever get like straight up arguments and throwdowns with your friends? They're like, man, we just want to go grab a beer. We don't want the tentacles with us.
There's no going out and grabbing a beer. That's pretty much it. My life revolves around my filmmaking at the moment. Now, that's not to say that my kids are neglected. I still help my kids with their homework. I just happen to have a monster in progress on the table sharing space with their homework. While I was doing that this afternoon. I was working on a
Yeah.
creature and, helping my daughter with her math work. I still play with my kids, but, it may be run from the tentacle monster, and
Yeah.
they're not
Yeah.
afraid of it. They know dad made it. And my wife and I, my wife is actually really supportive, probably more supportive than I could ever expect, or anyone could expect their wife to be.
That's
Um,
amazing.
it really is. I'm a very lucky guy. She is, and she's said to me, she's like, look, I knew I was marrying an artist. I knew what I was getting into.
Right.
So,
Right.
because I've kind of had this crazed attitude the whole time, whether it be comic books or showing at galleries, there was always something I was doing, some crazy new material I was bringing home, whether it be resin or I was constantly meeting an artist going, well, this artist works in gouache, so I've got to go out and buy a bunch of gouache and, paint in
Right.
gouache
Right.
because I love their work and, that sort of thing. But uh, my wife is also she has her bachelor's in English, and I actually write my own stuff. I'm very, like I said,
Wow.
very into storytelling. Telling a good story is very important to me, extremely important to me. If I'm gonna put all this effort into creating these creatures, um, there's nothing worse than going to a movie and going, that creature looked awesome, but the story, the acting was so bad, or, the story was just, so generic, or,
Right.
whatever. And, I think there are definitely kind of your genre stories that, hit their marks, but they could still be really well done. Like, I
Yeah.
personally feel that Harbinger Down was very well written. There are people that have kind of been complaining about it because it's too much like The Thing, or it's, too much. We've seen that before in the genre, but I think Alec Gillis did a really great job of kind of showing his love and understanding of that genre, and really kind of playing with it, and giving the audience kind of like a nod and a wink while he was telling his
Yeah.
story. Um, but my story is a lot different. I actually, um, I wrote this script, and I felt like I had a lot a lot to say. I recently heard that producer Adi Shankar, who did the Dread movie and The Gray, and he does his bootleg universe on YouTube. But he said something that I thought was very profound. He said, if you're going to be a filmmaker, if you're going to make a film, make sure it has a point of view. He said, there's so many
Yes.
movies these days that don't have a point of view, and they're vapid. They're just completely vacuous. They may be entertaining for a bit, but they're not memorable. And I
Right.
thought, okay, well, I'm constantly restraining myself from ranting on Facebook. So,
No pressure. No pressure.
I'm gonna make my movie kind of like, in a way, my my way of philosophizing.
Okay.
Tell a scary movie and have lots of tentacles and cool visuals, because I love all that stuff. But I wanted to make sure that my movie kind of had this unique voice to it, and
Yeah.
and talk, bring in some issues. Don't make the movie about the issues, but I've always felt that a good story is really the characters, and every character is a person that comes to the story with their issue, and
Yeah.
when that thing happens, when that creature comes or whatever happens, it impacts them, and how they react to that impact is what the story is. So it's like I started trying to think of, like, what do I want to say? Who are these characters? And I thought, my big thing is I'm a big proponent of individuality, of freedom of choice, living your life the way that works for you, and not letting other people interfere with that. And so I thought, like, well, what kind of character really kind of embodies that? Um, and I went through a lot of different things. Like, what's true individuality? Are you born with it, or is it part of the personality that you evolve into with your experiences and your thoughts?
Right.
So ultimately, I decided I wanted to have a character, but I wanted her to be struggling with that. because there's so much pressure around that, especially recently. I thought, well, what if she's a lesbian, but she feels like maybe, you know, maybe I can not be a lesbian, or maybe if I can
Yeah.
form myself into
Like
this
a
kind of.
a real live person with real live thoughts and feelings.
Exactly. So, uh, and I thought, well, what if she had a girlfriend, and her girlfriend's gonna be heartbroken, especially if she sees that this is a person trying to hammer themselves into a shape that isn't really them. They just think it's a more pleasing shape.
Right.
Uh, I always think there's a episode of Adventure Time where there's a bubblegum princess, and she wants to please some boy, and she actually physically, she's like, I've got too many lumps, don't I? I'll,
Yeah.
and she starts punching herself, and she starts
Right.
punching the lumps into a rounder shape. And I
Right.
was like, wow, that's actually a pretty cool kind of like comedic metaphor there. How there are people
Right.
like that. They want to try and like bend and break themselves into a more pleasing, or what they feel will be a form that's more pleasing to others. So, anyway, it just kind of coming at it from that side. And then I'm a big fan of science. I love quantum physics, and I love H.P. Lovecraft, that kind of whole cosmic horror thing. And I thought, wow, quantum physics, all that crazy like space time stuff, and you know, infinite gravity.
Wormholes and parallel universes and
Yeah, it's all very
everything.
Lovecraftian. And it's like, why can't I just update that kind of Lovecraftian cosmic terror with these quantum physics ideas? It's like Schrodinger's cat, and
Yeah. Sounds like you've done your fair share of reading too. When you were growing up, what kind of books did you latch on to?
I started reading very early. I think I was I had a lot of trouble. I'm actually high functioning autistic, um, with some ADHD and dyslexia in there. So I had a lot of trouble reading
Wow.
when I was a kid. And then one day I just had a breakthrough. Suddenly I could read like way above my grade level. Like I went
Right.
from like stuttering over words, and then I
Right.
discovered I love reading. So
Well, you spent so much time, like viewing people and viewing the world around you. It just came and hit you on the head one day that you don't have. I mean, you could also read, but and reading is almost an afterthought of what plagued you on the inside. Am I right?
yeah, definitely. Well, there's I don't know if this is a symptom of being high functioning autistic or it's just a general personality trait, but
What does that mean exactly? High functioning autistic.
okay,
Can
well,
you
the
explain that?
autism is it's a spectrum. And there's some severe autism, which some people may mistake for like a retardation, Down syndrome, that sort of thing, kind of like Rain Man
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
type of thing. And then there's high functioning autistic, which is kind of along the lines of Asperger's, which causes you to have a lot of fixations. Like I had a major fixation on the Aliens movies when I was a kid.
Oh,
Uh,
just completely all about it. You knew everything about it, or what do you mean by
I could
fixation?
quote along if there was this is before there were massive amounts of Aliens products that you could buy off the web, but if I came across an Aliens toy, or even if it was like a little pewter thing for a role playing game or something like that, I bought it.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
needed
Yeah.
to have it.
Oh wow.
I was obsessed with H.R. Giger. I remember being on vacation with
Ooh.
my parents, and we were at a
Yeah.
bookstore, and there was an H.R. Giger book, and I was like, I have to have that book. My it was kind of had a tear on the cover, so my dad
Right.
like talked the guy into giving me a discount. And you know,
Your dad let you have it. That book is which
I don't think
well
he knew
which
what he was giving me.
oh
It
my
was
god, that's like the seventh gate of hell right
it's
there, man.
biomechanics. I still have the book. It's actually on my shelf right
Yes.
across, looking at it right now.
Everything is phallic and vaginal in that book.
It was, and God, I don't know how old I was. I was just a kid, maybe 11. It didn't
Right.
quite occur to me all the things I was looking at, but I was really
Right.
fixated. And it kind of started, I'll tell you something. I can't remember how old I was in 1986. I was still a kid when Aliens came out, but my parents weren't going to let me see a rated R movie at that point. But they knew I was really,
Sure.
I'd seen the commercials, like I was latched onto it already, even before I'd seen it. So my mom came and she told me the movie. So in my kind of inner brain, I visualized this whole movie before I ever saw it. And even that was terrifying. My mom would do that a lot with me. She'd read like a Stephen King book and she'd tell me what was going on in the book, like the, the censored version. But,
Right.
and all this
Right.
stuff was going on in my brain. I go to school and I talk about it, and all the other kids are like, what is wrong with this kid? Because I had a very, very kind of odd way of speaking. I spoke like a little adult, which would cause
Yeah.
adults to talk to me like an adult. But just
Yeah.
because I talked like an adult, it didn't mean I was an adult. It
Right.
was,
Oh, he's so astute. Let's go talk
yes.
about stocks and bonds with this 8-year-old.
I remember getting pinned by a lady who wanted to talk about Nelson Mandela. And I was like,
Oh my goodness.
and I just, so I had this weird kind of interaction with adults where they talked to me like an adult, and I kind of had to rush to try and process what they were saying. And then I couldn't talk to kids my own age because they were working on a kid level, and they're like, so I really just had the world of reading and science fiction and horror and fantasy. I was reading like Chronicles of Narnia,
Oh yeah.
all these different kind of age level books that were like ghost stories and
Yeah.
uh, psychic kids. And
And dreams, what kind of dreams did you have while you're reading all this stuff?
oh well, I've always been a very vivid dreamer, and I'm actually very much into dissecting my dreams, which partially comes from being a fan of David Lynch, because I feel like his movies are like dreams.
I am the arm.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually wrote a short story called "The Arm" because of that. Because
Shut up.
it was
Oh, that's
something.
awesome.
It was something that Ray Bradbury. It wasn't a very good story. It's a good concept, but it wasn't. It was before I really got good at writing. But
Yeah.
Ray Bradbury said, I'll wake up in the morning and I'll just think of some words, and I'll think, well, what's the story behind that word? He famously talked about a short story, The Veldt, because he'd heard about the African Veldt, and he said, well, what about the African Veldt? And it was kind of the precursor to the holodeck. Essentially, is this story written in the 1950s where these kids had this nursery that was like a holodeck, and you go in and it's the African Veldt. And the parents were going, like parents going, our kids are watching too much TV. They're spending too much time in the Veldt. So they know kids are really bratty, and they try and get them out of the Veldt. And the kids like reprogram the holodeck to have the lions in the Veldt eat their parents. Spoiler alert. So I heard that I am the arm. I'm like, what does that mean, the arm? And I had this vision of this little kid walking down the beach and finding this arm, this severed arm, and it looks like the arm of a girl.
Oh my.
And so he takes it home and he puts it in a fish tank, and like a starfish, he's cut off a starfish limb, and it grows into a whole new starfish. Well,
oh my.
The story was this kid like puts this arm in a fish tank, and it grows a mermaid. And it's his age, so it's kind of like this relationship with this mermaid, and he grows up with it. But mermaids are, well, at least in my story, they're kind of like cosmic.
Yeah.
Well, so
are they naked? Are your mermaids naked like everybody else's? Or are they like creature like looking beings?
No, I have these weird swampy looking mermaids. I actually paint mermaids a lot. I feel like I have a lot of kind of Jungian symbology coming out when I paint these mermaids, but they are nude mermaids.
Wow.
They exist in these kind of Yoda-like swamps that may be on alien planets. So
yeah, that's completely different than the sea monkeys that I grew up with. Like I remember looking on the cover of a sea monkey's box and thinking, man, there could really be mermaids out there, but they would never look that twisted and contorted. They would be awesome and hot, but
weren't you so disappointed though when you put in the sea monkeys and they didn't turn into that family of mutant creatures?
What a ripoff. I was expecting to see the waterized version of like the Jetsons or something with things happening and, some drama going on, but no, there's nothing. There's just these little things I ended up throwing out.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time as a kid also exploring. There was a hill in back of my neighborhood that I would go exploring, full of lizards and scorpions, snakes, and then we'd go to the beach, and there are these little creatures you dig in the sand and like pull up a bunch these little kind
Uh-huh.
of crab-like creatures that were all over the place. And
Right.
I was always exploring sea and wildlife and kind of being inspired by it.
Ooh.
So and I think that a lot of that comes out in my artwork now. And my art, I mean, I'm doing my own storyboards for this movie.
I saw that.
Yeah,
Very good.
I think storyboards are very important. Design is very important. I think that just came from my fandom of H.R. Giger. He's like, hey, H.R. Giger did these really elaborate paintings of, these aliens. Like, I got to do really
evil shit.
I'm already thinking about the art book. Like, I've got to have cool art to go along with this movie. And I got to do that. One of the things about Harbinger Down as well is I got to be part of the creature design team.
Yeah.
So I went all out. I created these creatures, and then I put them into Photoshop, and I sent them to Alec, and Alec looked at them and said, "This looks cool. We may use something like that." And there were other people in the design team, and looking at the movie, I see elements of what I did. They didn't use anything fully that I did, but it was kind of cool, like him looking at stuff and going over it and going like, hey, this is a really cool idea, but I don't know how we're going to do that on our budget. I go like, well, what about this, this, and this? And he's like, we just can't do that. It's not a $1 million movie or anything like that, but it was a fun process. So of course, I'm putting the same process into my own movie. Creating these designs and, they're like, we've talked about it. We're going to bring you over to the set. You can check out the animatronics and what we built. And, we're going to show you, because some of these creatures, we didn't build them full size. We made miniatures. So these working puppets that we've created using household products and, and we're gonna do all sorts of miniature work. That's how we're doing it on such a low budget. We're still trying to raise some funds, but I don't imagine this movie's going to cost any more than $10,000. So,
oh man, see, to me that is just huge. I'm like, 10 grand. How do you even come up with that?
It's not easy, when it's Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff Jr. and you can say, hey, they're Oscar winners. That's kind of like saying you're Leonardo DiCaprio's wingman. It's like, hey, I can walk up to supermodels and go, hey, I'm, with my friend over here, Leonardo DiCaprio, and, he was wondering if he could talk to you. And they go like, yeah, he can talk to you. Yeah, tell us more,
Yeah, of course.
But when it's just me and I walk up to the supermodels, it's I got to do a little more convincing. So doing my own crowdfunding for this movie's kind of been like that. It's kind of been like, Leo's not with me now. I can't, I mean, he's been, like I said, Tom and Alec, they've been great in, letting me use the animatronic tentacles and giving me advice and letting me use their name, when I talk about the movie, which is really great.
Yeah. That's what I want to do. I want to break in real quick. I want to tell you that we have a little bit of the backstory of your life, the things that inspire you, the things that you are obviously going to follow through with in your lifetime here on this small planet we call Earth. What is Quantum Terror about? Let's pretend that you go to a movie theater and you sit down. What are people going to expect? What kind of movie is this?
Okay, I'm going to answer that question on 2 tiers. First of all,
tiers.
Yeah, a 2-tier answer.
Yes.
First of all, I want to talk about, despite the budget, the quality of movie they're going to see. Because a cinematographer, Anthony Gutierrez, is amazing. Jenna Green, despite all the talking I've done about Studio ADI, Jenna Green, our head of makeup and special effects, she was on Face Off. She also did makeup for the movie Army of Frankensteins. She's a phenomenal, like, knock your socks off artist. She didn't get much time on Face Off, but that show does not show people's true talent.
Right.
The work she's been doing, the creature effects she's been coming up with, I mean, just are moving the quality of this movie up way beyond anything. The cast, Kristen Kochel, Mike Gasaway, Demetrius Polito, Paula Sullinger, Jordan Brinkman, Matt Blackwell, they are amazing actors. Like, everything about this movie is like, I look at the budget and I go, this movie should cost so much more money, but everyone's top talent. So first of all, I want to say they're not going to get like a really cheesy, bad acting, low budget movie that, looks like it was shot on a, iPhone or something. Yeah, well, people are shooting great movies on iPhones now, but they're gonna get something that is really good quality.
You're so polite to the industry.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've seen people do
I'd be like,
amazing.
this is my shit. I'm so proud of it. It kicks everybody's ass. Come watch it now.
I mean, I'm really proud of the cast and crew, because they are really bringing so much more than I ever expected this movie to be. I just thought, oh, this is going to be like a really cheesy micro budget film, and but I feel like I'm making something that is comparable to a lot of bigger budget indie films, and that what we've shot so far. And anyway, I could go on about that, but the other answer to your question, so the Quantum Terror. So yeah, there is this character. Her name is Samantha Carroll, but her friends call her Sam, and she's one of these people. I think we've all met that person when you're in high school. Like, I'm gonna be wild. I'm gonna go drink and party and do all this crazy stuff. But then on this date on the calendar, I'm going to knock it all off, and I'm going to go and, pass my exams and go to college and graduate and get this degree and blah, blah, blah. And then I will be happy. And, but I always noticed those people were always stressing themselves out. They could never relax, and
True.
So I thought, well, that'd make a very interesting character. What if somebody had that attitude and she goes and she has, like, I'm going to be wild and have a lesbian relationship. And so she goes and, falls in love with another woman. And then she, that date on the calendar comes and it's time to straighten out. And she breaks it off. And this woman is heartbroken. And this woman is smart enough to know that there was something meaningful in their relationship. And, Sam is forsaking it. But at the same time, Sam's sister has disappeared. Sam's sister is kind of like the epitome of her preconceived ideas. She's top of her class grad student in the field of quantum physics. She's got a boyfriend who's like really smart as well, but she's vanished. So she goes to this boyfriend. It turns out it's her ex-boyfriend, and she's like, hey, can you help me find my sister? And it turns out he's a suspect in her disappearance, but they don't have any evidence of that. He's talking about, oh, she was going down into these tunnels and she was doing all this. I think she lost her mind. She's been doing all these weird drawings and equations, and it's part quantum physics and it's part the occult. And then she disappeared. But before she disappeared, she told me she talked to someone from another dimension. And you want to go down in these tunnels? We'll go look for her together. The cops have already been down there, but they're incompetent. Come on, let's go. So she's like, you're kind of weird, but I want to find my sister. And then Lucy, her ex-girlfriend, shows up and says, hey, I know we've broken off, but look, I've got a boyfriend now. So, she, like, you want to play straight? I can play straight too. And he's poor boyfriend's kind of a fifth wheel. And, but they're all like, okay, you're with this crazy guy. Let's all go down into the tunnels together, and we'll go look and see that she's not there. And then, we'll go from there. But of course they go down there, and it turns out the tunnels are a lot more elaborate than they thought. And of course there's
is it kind of like Alice in Wonderland? They go in somewhere and then something else takes over. They walk into another time zone or a different dimension.
It is, yeah, this is a network of tunnels, and it is kind of a different dimension, or more accurately, there's a fifth dimensional being in there. It doesn't experience time like we do. It doesn't perceive things like we do. And whether it's hostile or not is up for grabs. But the fact of the matter is, if you take something that is that complex and that alien from us, it's going to drive you insane when you encounter it. And they can't get out. They're trapped down there with it. And so, you're going to see these crazy tentacled Lovecraftian creatures. You're going to see alternate realities, and it's going to be crazy. I mean, we're taking shades of David Lynch, and we're taking shades of Aliens and The Thing, and In the Mouth of Madness, and
I love
Event
that.
Horizon, and but there's ideas in there like from The Matrix, and just really kind of a lot of these crazy ideas. And I don't want to give away too much, but
I understand. I understand.
but I took this story to a writer who I very much admire. He's one of our executive producers, and he's our script doctor. His name's James Hudnall, and he's a co-creator of the Ultraverse for Malibu Comics in the 90s that got bought out by Marvel. And he also created Harsh Realms, which Chris Carter turned into a television series. But I took the script to him and I showed it to him and I said, hey, can you be the script doctor for this? Make sure I didn't screw it up. And, he gave the script back to me with his notes. And there weren't very many changes in the story, the overall story. It was, more cosmetic stuff and just making sure that I, tied up certain loose ends, that sort of thing. But he was like, actually, you did a pretty good job. And my mouth dropped open, like, there's this writer who actually enjoys and likes the script. And so we started talking about, different directors and how they approach things. We actually have been watching a lot of Sergio Leone movies, which is Westerns, like couldn't be farther from horror. But, we would be like, look at this moment. Look how they don't say anything. Look at how it's all in the eyes. And, so we took some stuff from Sergio Leone and,
wow,
combine that with David Lynch and, talk about Ridley Scott or, just having a great time talking about the stories. And that, I mean, that's just been such a great thing about this movie is that everyone's having a great time making it. And everyone, they're really into it. I mean, I don't know if this is just, especially the actors, because they're all good actors. So I'm like, okay, you guys just being good actors and like buttering me up and telling me how much you love this script. But no, they seem really into it. Like they really like this script. They're excited to be a part of it. And when they show up to set and they see, the tentacles and the creatures, it's not just something CGI there. They're interacting with it and they're having a great time. And the cinematographers like coming in with all these great ideas, and we're having conversations about, it's not just like, okay, point and shoot. It's like, okay, in this moment, this is the dominating character. So
and everybody's completely into it.
Yeah. And, we're talking about, Silence of the Lambs. That's another big influence on this movie. I love the directing style of Silence of the Lambs. So, we're kind of going for that kind of thing as well. But it's been such an exciting thing, and to see everyone kind of come together over something I created, and love it, and actively participate, outside at above and beyond the Call of Duty, in promoting it and that sort of thing. It's just really a great feeling, especially with what they bring to it. It's not just about, hey, you're here, you're going to do what I say, do it like this. Everyone's like bringing so much to it, whether it be behind the camera or in front of the camera. You can tell I'm excited. There's really not enough nice things I can say about all the people.
Yeah. Well, we know a little bit about Quantum Terror. I can't say a lot, but we know a little bit about it. I really want everybody to be as excited as I am to go see it. Some of the excitement that I have is knowing a little bit more about the person that made it. So you gave us a little bit of backstory about yourself, where you grew up in California, in the Hollywood scene, and kind of how you made some connections there and what brought you to Austin. Now I want to know deep Christopher Moonlite. I want to know who you are as a person. And some of these are fan-based questions. I just ask every guest that comes on the show. These are called hot seat questions. Okay.
Okay.
And it really, and please be comfortable enough to say, "Oh, I'm not going to talk about that straight up." Because I've had people, I ask them questions, they're very candid, but then they call back and they say, could you pull that show because my agent called and said that I probably won't get that much work if. So these are true deep questions, and I literally want to know because I have the same kind of feelings and the same kind of questions. So as I post everything that I do right now on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and every social media out there, I want you to tell the world more about yourself. So do you believe honestly in Bigfoot?
No.
Really?
Bigfoot has never done it for me in terms of the belief system. I guess it's one of those things where, this just, yeah, I can't justify it because some of the reasons I give you for not believing
Yes.
in Bigfoot, I would dismiss those reasons and other things I do believe in. I'm kind of a paradox that way, but I've just, I don't know. I figure that Bigfoot, in my mind, the way he's been presented, seems to be, an animal. And I figure if that animal's out there, it would have a region of origin, which seems to be all over the world for Bigfoot. And we would have run into something by now.
No, we're still finding civilizations though. Like we still find people that like ancient civilizations that we had no idea were there.
Yeah, but we don't find them in New Jersey. And
that's true. Touche, my friend. Touche. The reason why I ask about that is, quantum terror. Bigfoot could possibly be, a time traveler. Or maybe he is the quantum answer.
He could be an interdimensional being. I have heard that theory thrown out there. But there's, it's just one of those things where I probably don't know enough about Bigfoot. My daughter always asks me about the Loch Ness Monster, and my answer to her is, well, no one's ever seen, so,
right.
No, there could be something down there. It could be coming in from, some tunnel that runs out into the ocean, and we've only explored like 1% of the ocean, so who knows. So
the same could be said about that dude Jesus Christ with the long hair, goatee, and sandals. No, I guess some people say they have seen him, and there's books that are written about people that say they have seen them, but the same kind of thing goes, like he appears for certain people at certain times. It's kind of like maybe Jesus is Bigfoot.
Well, I'll say this. I'm a big believer in there's more to existence than what we perceive. I definitely believe that. And it's all happening simultaneously. I think the human beings, we're kind of a combination of radio receiver, energy to matter converter.
Yeah.
So, first of all, it's kind of like if I'm a positive person, for the most part, I believe I attract positive vibes and I attract positive people. That doesn't mean there isn't bull in my life and there aren't negative people in my life. I have to deal with them just like everyone else. But, it's how I choose to kind of fill in the gaps. Am I going to look at the positive or the negative? And that kind of fulfills me because I actually feel I'm a very positive guy. I feel we're energy converters in that everything that is around us right now started out in our head, and everything that's happening right now is being perceived in our head. Whatever we're seeing is not actually reality. What we're seeing is something is being received from the receptors in our eyes and our ears and the nerves in our skin, and it's being translated and into images that we can deal with. There are probably things out there that are better at it than we are, and they probably are completely beyond our own perception. So I'm definitely not dismissive of Jesus. I'm not a Christian myself, but I have read a lot from the Bible, not the whole Bible, but I've read a lot. And there's some pretty interesting stuff in there that I would not so easily poo-poo even though I am heavily into science. I watch science shows all the time.
Right.
And people are like, oh, science, that means there is no God. And like, you know what? It's very unscientific of you to presume that.
Exactly.
So, anyway, what are some of your other hot seat questions?
Well, there's the whole thing about aliens. Aliens could also be interdimensional beings, but as you grow up and you hear stories, and then you have your own experiences, what do you think about aliens?
That's a tough one because you're absolutely right. They could be interdimensional beings. The whole Greys thing. It's interesting to me that they would be humanoid, even if they're from billions of miles
Right.
or millions of light years away, whatever.
Right.
I do have friends who have reported seeing them to me. I don't doubt their word. I don't think they're lying. They have reported missing time. Who knows what they could be if they are out
Right.
there, if they're aliens. I have also speculated super evolved time travelers. I think that's kind of a fun theory. I've heard that before. They could be from a million years into the future, and they've
Right.
traveled back in time to check us out and make sure that, we're evolving correctly or whatever. Uh, but yeah, that's another one. I think in my mind, I try to leave aliens alone, because if I start to hone in on a perception of what they are as a reality, then I won't get to have as much fun with them in the filmmaking, storytelling realm. It's
Right.
much more fun for me to be able to make something up than to kind of be nailed down to what they actually might
Huh.
be.
Well, okay, answer me this. Do you think it's a possibility, with the life that you've had and the admitted quantum oddities that have happened in your life, to help you make a movie like this, because you've been influenced to a point to where it's not over the top, it's very manageable, but you're in the world of time travel, you're in the world of interdimensional things happening and parallel universes. Do you think that there's a 50-50 chance? I'm honestly asking you, do you think there's a 50-50 chance that you could possibly be an alien or a time traveler?
I have wondered quite or pondered quite deeply what I might actually be. You come across those, you're scrolling down Facebook and there's that thing that says, if this is our only way of getting in touch with you. You're actually in a coma, and we've been trying to get you out, like a Total Recall thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You kind of wonder, or like the Matrix, am I just a brain in a jar being fed signals?
Yeah. Like, do you wonder, like, what am I exactly?
Absolutely. Sometimes I wonder, maybe I'm, some cosmic being floating in a quantum vacuum, muttering to myself, hallucinating all of this just to keep myself from, ultimate despair, or, you know, I don't know, but I try and stay humble on that point. I feel like there are greater forces around me that influence my destiny and everyone else's. And I don't know if they're conscious forces, but I think there are more forces around us than we are able to perceive. So I try and be very humble before those. I screw up a lot. I beg for forgiveness. Like swimming in a riptide. You just try and swim with it, and beg it not to drag you under.
Right.
Especially when things are going well. I try and kind of just shout to the universe in some way or another, like, thank you, I'm very grateful, please don't pull the rug out from under me.
Right.
Uh,
Service. I do a lot of things. Like I connect success with service directly, or happiness or success. It's the same exact thing in my world.
my thing is paying it forward. There's a lot of
Right.
people who have come forward and helped me. Most of them didn't have to. Like I said, the
Right.
people who are working on this movie, they were working either way below their rates or as volunteers. And I know they wouldn't do that for just anyone. I've made a real effort to make sure that I'm treating them fairly and kindly, do
Right.
whatever favors I can for them, in addition to, you know, paying them or whatever. Uh, you know, if somebody is serious about filmmaking, you know, just like with I said before, somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, like I love what you do. I want to do it too. Can you, you know, give me some advice?" I'm always there for them. If they're, you know, just jerking around and they, you know, wait and say like, look, you know, call me when you get ready to get serious about this. But for the
Right.
ones who are really putting in the effort, like I never want to turn them away. You know, I always want to be encouraging, or, you know, even if they come at me with a short film and it's really crappy, I like pat them on the back and find all the things that are good
Yeah,
about it,
good
you know,
job.
because they made a film. You know, it's like how many
Yeah,
people
definitely.
actually do that? Even and I know that my first work was awful. Like I look back on it and go like, oh, that's terrible. But you know, it's I still did it, and I'm still doing it, and I'm improving, and
Yes.
you know, it's just I try and give back what I've gotten, but I do it
Right.
by
Right.
choice. I don't want people like forcing me, like you have to, like this person did this to you, now you have to do that. It's got to come naturally. You know, I got to
Yes.
feel like the flow of receiving and giving, and make sure that I keep that flow going. Hold on just a second. My daughter wants to say something. What is it?
Okay.
It's all downstairs. You gotta have to ask mommy. Oh, okay, you're gonna have to wait because I'm talking to somebody. I'm saying say hi.
Oh.
She's, my
Oh.
time does not stop for a
No,
3 year
sir, it
old
does not.
daughter.
Those are the time travelers right there.
Yeah, so you know, you can hear her. Honey, I gotta
Yeah.
have you date. Well, I can't go downstairs right now. I'm talking to the universe. They're all listening. Do you want to say hi to the universe? That's one
Hello,
way to get her away.
universe.
She goes right.
Yeah. Put the
No.
mic in somebody's face. Man, it happens to me all the time. I go to do a live interview on location. I stick a mic in somebody's face, and they're like, "Man, look at the time."
Speaking of which, I do have to move on quite shortly, but I'm
Well,
loving these
thank
hot
you.
seat questions. You got another one for me?
Yeah, it goes even deeper down the rabbit hole, man. I wanted to know if you believe in the voting. Do you believe in people voting? Do you believe in governments? Do you think that there's a shadow government? Do you believe in the end of the world?
This is actually stuff that I cover in the Quantum Terror, believe it or not, but I do it in a much more esoteric way. Um, yes, I do believe in voting. I don't know if voting truly makes a difference or not, but I think it's important
Right.
to make your voice heard no matter
Ah, well
what.
said. Well said.
You know, I think if you're going to give up, then you know that's that. I do know there are people in my family who say voting doesn't make a difference. I don't vote, and it's like, well, it's never going to make a difference if you do something. You know, if you don't do
Right.
something.
Yeah.
Some people, you know,
Right.
I've got friends who talk about revolution. We need a revolution, but you know, in my mind, history shows, and a lot of the books I love, like George Orwell's 1984, Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. You know, this, you know, revolution equals blood. And there's
Yeah.
a really great line from Sergio Leone's "Duck You Sucker," and there's a kind of the Irish revolutionary, and he's talking to this kind of nomadic Mexican friend of his, and he lies down for a siesta on this map, and he's like, "That's your country you're laying on. Don't you care?" And he's like, "My
Mhm.
family is my country." And he's like, "What about?"
Nice.
And he said, you know, and I love that because that's about individuality. And but you know, the guy says, "Well, you know, there's a revolution going on," and the guy's like, "You know what? Fuck your revolution. You know what? You know what a revolution is? It's all the people who know how to read convince all the people who don't know how to read that they need to go to war. And then there's war and there's death and there's bloodshed. And then in the end of it, the people who know how to read put themselves in power. And you know what happens to the people who don't know how to read? They're dead. So, you
Yeah.
know, fuck your
That's
revolution." And
that's
and I really,
very
you know,
telling.
I just love that because, you know, that's me. My life, to me, I figure uh, as long for me, and I don't like to get too political. I'm not going to
Right, right,
endorse
right,
any candidates. I don't believe in endorsing candidates because Ray Bradbury, again, I love the man. He said we shouldn't be picking sides. We shouldn't be dedicating ourselves to one party or another. We should be a spectator in the middle, and we should be making up our minds as we go along. But for me, I feel like the government's there to make sure that the pathways are clear,
Yes.
that we are protected, but that they shouldn't be getting in the way of what we want. It's like if I like to, if I want a big garden, and I want to, grow multiple flowers, I want the chance to be able to work and create that garden and not have a government, tell me you can't have that garden. You've got to divide that garden up amongst the people.
Yeah.
Or, it's anyway, I could get really, really philosophical about it, but I really feel like each individual should have the right to pursue what makes them happy. And for some people, that is a minimalistic life, and for other people, that is a grandiose life. And it's just the way we are. We should be able to choose to go down that path because we only get that chance one time, as far as we know. And who are
I
other
think
people to tell us, what path to take? They're not us. They don't know.
Well, people's feelings are getting hurt way too easy, and it seems that our ethics and personal rules and everything is being compromised by social media. And I think it just makes it hard for us to understand what it means to make a conscious decision for ourselves, not for everybody else, but what do we personally believe in? That's my 2 cents in that.
I'm actually writing, because if you go to the Quantum Terror blog, it's
Yes.
blogspot.com/quantum terror, I think. I write little articles about what the movie is about. And I actually, in my mind, today's media, social media as well, it's not just, a government or corporate controlled media or whatever people want to think it is. It's the social media, the people themselves. It's become a cosmic terror, this overwhelming thing, this wealth of information and misinformation and pressures and sides fighting and accusations and people painting things one way when it's really another and pinning it on you whether they know you or not. It's this overwhelming, maddening thing. And I'm actually using the quantum terror kind of as an allegory. I feel like that the today's World Wide Web is a wonderful thing, but it's also a horrible thing, this cosmic terror that's driving everyone insane. And I feel sorry for the younger people because they're not grounded in anything that came before that. They were born into it. And, how do you find a sense of self? Again, another theme of the quantum terror, a sense of self in all of that. And that is by trying to figure out a way to tune it all out and figure out who you are and live your life as you are. And that's
very awesome.
And it's like I'm supposed to be telling you this movie's going to scare the crap out of you. It's going to be scarier than Annabelle, whatever. And it's actually it's a much deeper fear because it's a monster movie that reaches into the core of who we are. And
that's why I like it. We all have the ability to be great giants, but at the same time, we have the ability to become horrible monsters, and it's just a very fine line that we have to walk as human beings.
And none of us are immune. None of us are immune. I think that's a big thing. There's a lot of people walking around like they're immune or they've got it figured out, and I think those are the most dangerous people of all. You got to be humble before it. Anyway, I think I should probably wrap it up. Probably do one more question, and then, or maybe you're done. I don't know.
Well, I actually had 2 more very, very, very quick questions. You could just say yes or no if whatever leads you to the answer.
Okay.
Do you think that this inside your lifetime here on the planet Earth, do you think that you will experience zombies?
No.
No. Okay. Last question. In your whole life, with everything that you see on social media, Facebook, the time that you were born to the time that you die, and everything that happens inside and around it, inside the ocean and above inside the universe, do you think that everything is governed by frequency?
Probably. That's the best answer I can give. That's what it seems like. That's how it seems to work.
Yes,
In
a
all of my
frequency.
experience, it does seem to work, whether it be mental frequency or the frequency that, the particles within atoms vibrate at.
Right.
That's how it seems to be. But there's the old saying, I think, therefore I am. And that is the only thing that I think we can absolutely be sure of.
Wonderful. That's wonderful and beautiful. Listen, I'm going to let you go right now, but I know that in 2 weeks I'm going to be at your studio recording with you, and we're going to have the whole crew out there. It's going to be a hodgepodge of people that you've never met, but it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'll try to stay out of the way. But man, Christopher, thank you so much for spending this hour with me on the Zombie Life podcast. Anything that we can do to help and promote, we will definitely do it, because this is my kind of thing, dude. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to you guys coming out. I'm going to really, it would be less philosophical and more geek out on all the cool practical effects we've got going on. No, I really appreciate the time. And yeah, I would just like to ask everyone listening, please go over to our Indiegogo. We do have some great pledge rewards, and we need that little extra push to get the movie done. And one way or another, I'm going to do it, but I would like to involve. That's the wonderful thing about crowdfunding, is it's kind of the democracy of filmmaking. If you guys want to see this movie, if you guys believe that what I'm saying can translate into a cool movie, then come be a part of it. We'll put your name in the credits, and you can look at it and hopefully be proud of it.
Wonderful. Now, where can people find you everywhere on social media?
Okay, so I would just say that facebook.com/Quantum Terror. I'm also on Instagram as Christopher Moonlite. There's the Quantum Terror blog spot that I told you about before. And if you type into your computer www.igg.me/at/Quantum Terror, you will find our Indiegogo. And I've also got a YouTube channel. It's under Moonlight Art Magazine. It's got lots of videos from the Quantum Terror. Going to be releasing more soon about our storyboards, about our miniatures, about our actors, time on set. What a great time we're having. So I hope people will enjoy all of that, because it's more than just the movie. It's all the stuff coming up to the movie. You kind of are watching the movie being made in real time.
Yeah, and every link that you just mentioned, I put it on the sidebar of this live YouTube broadcast. So all the listeners, please go to all the links that he's got there for Quantum Terror, and follow Christopher Moonlite on Facebook and Quantum Terror on Facebook. Thank you again so much for coming to spend some time on the Zombie Life podcast. I will speak with you soon, and let's go scare some people. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good one, man.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
That was pretty cool. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to try to add on. Let's see. I'm going to try to add on red rum. It might not work. Let's see. I'll go to my circles and Michael Ludlow. Let's see. What is I'm going to ask Michael Ludlow right now, or Red Rum. What is your Google name? Trying to add you right now. I'm actually talking to him on Facebook. Please go to my Facebook. It's zombielifepodcast.com. And you can follow Michael Ludlow on Facebook as well. I just invited all of my friends in circles. So it should be cool. Let's see who else I can get up in here. Send invite as Zombie Life Podcast. That's right. So what did you guys think about Christopher Moonlite? I love the name, first off. Very, very cool. Quantum Terror is going to be amazing. I don't know. Man, I'm getting all kinds of bings now. Let's see, redludlow@gmail.com. Okay, that's what I'm going to add him as. I don't know exactly what all is going to happen inside this movie, but I do know that I like that kind of thing, you know? Oh, man, this is the weirdest thing. Come back anytime. I'm just going to push invite. How's that? Invite. So now I'm inviting Red Rum from the Zombie Life podcast. Hopefully he will get my invite. And I'm going to tell him on Facebook right now, inviting you right now. Inviting you right now. Yeah, Quantum Terror, from what I've seen, it's like a big throwback to awesome kick-ass movies like In the Mouth of Madness, which is actually a chapter named after that movie inside my book, Frequency Alpha. Shameless plug. Go find my books on Amazon, Frequency Alpha and Frequency Sigma. Man, I'm not getting read just yet for some weird reason. Rad. Hey, Rad, are you there? Anybody from Facebook or Twitter, anybody that's listening right now, feel free to come on and ask me any questions about the Zombie Life podcast. We're making waves out here. Man, I should do something like I don't know. Is there music or something that I could play on this thing? Now, I'm new to Google Hangouts, okay? So, there's a little thing that I can use. What's this? Yeah, there's all kinds of little plugins that I can use, and that's cool. Wow, that was loud and annoying. Hey, okay, I'm gonna quit pushing those things because they are, they're like crack. I want to push them so bad, but I have to take my hand off the mouse to do it. So I'm not getting anybody else to come on here right now, which is perfectly fine because I'm sweating inside a room that I don't have the AC or the fan on because I don't want to make any extra noise. That's how good I am. You see, boy, back in the war, we had things called restraint. And now, anyway, thank you all for joining. This is Eddie Rotten with the Zombie Life podcast on YouTube Live with Google Hangouts. And join me in the next couple of weeks. We're going to go to the studio of Christopher Moonlite and tour everything Quantum Terror. So please join me then. And this coming weekend is going to be the edited version of this with a whole bunch of other stuff, like some freaky news that's out there and a whole bunch of Zombie Radio Network stuff. So please tune in this weekend as well. Again, this is Eddie Rotten with the Zombie Life podcast. Love you guys. And as always, kill them all, bitches.